Welcome, everybody, to Cinema Royale. I am Travis Hopson of PunchdrunkCritics.com, and on this week's show, we are talking Joker Folie de. How do you pronounce
Folie
it?
de. Folie
Folie
de.
de. Folie de. You notice that they don't even say the title of the movie in promos? They just don't bother. It's too foo-foo of a title. And I think that is one of many big errors that they make with this movie. But we're talking Joker Folie de with Joaquin Phoenix, Lady Gaga is Harley Quinzel, aka Harley Quinn, and Todd Phillips is back as well. And of course, joining me here is my buddy Chris Bumbray, the only person I do these things with anymore. Honestly, because he's my buddy. What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm all right, man. We're talking about one of the biggest, or at least most anticipated movies of the year. I think for a certain segment of people. My thing with this movie is that, and as I've said before in the past, I start to gauge these things by the reactions of my friends. And my friends aren't excited about this movie. And most of them liked Joker.
Yeah.
Aren't excited about this one. One, because they don't understand the title. And two, because they've all heard that it's a musical. And they don't know why it's a musical. And after seeing the movie myself yesterday and getting asked by them, so explain the musical thing, I'm like, it still didn't need to be a musical. It didn't need to be a musical. But I'll go into the reasons why it's a musical and why it is what it is in a little bit. But I want to get your initial reaction to Joker, because
It's the same thing though with my friends. Like when I get invited to the promos for big movies, often I get like a +1, and usually people want it, right? Yep. So I've usually got a couple people that want to be the +1, right? And this time nobody wanted to come. It was crazy. Nobody wanted to come. And it was, they were like, nah, I don't know. And so I ended up seeing it with a friend who was like cool on it, who wasn't even that big of a fan of the original movie, who just came to hang. Yeah. And the excitement level for it has really dropped. I mean, it was tracking so high a couple months ago, but then the bad buzz, because people aren't liking it very much, it really tanking the movie, and it looks like it's going to be kind of a flop for the studio, which is crazy because you'd think that a movie with Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn,
first film made over $1 billion,
and that pairing promises fireworks. And Lady Gaga, all of her movies have been successful, and it's just like,
was House of Gucci successful?
It was for the pandemic. It made close to 100 million for the pandemic. That was pretty good. Yeah. The thing is, like, it promised these fireworks that were never delivered. I found her role quite inconsequential when you watch the movie. And the musical thing, what I said in my review, and I stand by it, is that, remember when Hangover 3 came out and there were barely any laughs in it? And it was almost
the exact same thing that I said and that I was going to get to later. But go ahead. We
so
can talk
basically,
about this.
Hangover 3... Yeah. Hangover 3 came out and there were barely any laughs in it. It was like his dry run at making a serious crime movie, right? And I think that's how we got Joker, right? Like from the Hangover 3. And this felt like it was his dry run at making a musical, right? Like it was another genre that he wanted to dip his toe into, but he didn't have the clout to do a full-on musical yet. So he's like, well, I can get a Joker 2 made, so I'm going to try with that. And I felt he did the exact same thing with Hangover 2. I feel like this is a movie he didn't really care about making all that much. I think that it made so much money, the original, that a sequel, they were going to do it with or without him. So I think he used it
as... This is why you and I are friends. This is why you and I are friends, because you and I, we have a lot of the same opinions and a lot of the same likes and stuff like that. But you and I, like, see eye to eye on so much shit.
But it felt like that when you watched the movie, though. Like, he didn't give a shit anymore. Like, it was such an unnecessary epilogue to the first movie.
Yeah, I felt like, and as I wrote in my review, I felt like active resentment in the movie. Like he actively resented 100%. The fact that he was making this movie. I remember when the first one came out, he didn't sound like he wanted to make a sequel.
No, he didn't sound like he wanted to make a sequel at all. I feel like he
And then Warner Brothers optioned Joaquin Phoenix, and I think he kind of felt obligated to come back and do it. And so he did, but he was like, okay, but if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do a musical because I've always wanted to do a musical.
Yeah.
And so he does this sort of musical. It's not a full-blown musical, but it's musical elements to it. So it's sort of a musical, but a sort of musical doesn't make the best use of Lady Gaga, which it absolutely doesn't, except for maybe one scene where she gets to really sing.
Yeah, there's no real great numbers for her either. I mean, not
No,
like A Star Is Born, where she
no,
has like
nothing
these
like that.
amazing musical numbers. There's
Nothing
nothing
like that.
really in this.
Yeah, nothing like that. And Todd Phillips is like you said, exactly like The Hangover, where he wanted to make a crime movie. So he gave fans Hangover 3, which, a lot of people wanted because the first two were hugely successful, but he clearly didn't really want to do it. So he did a crime movie, had no laughs in it. It's a terrible movie, honestly.
Yeah, it
And
is.
we did it while not giving fans what they wanted. And so if you're going to do a Joker movie, he's like, okay, I'm going to do a musical, which again is not what fans want if you're going to do a Joker movie. And then the story doesn't serve Arthur Fleck either.
Well,
Like
there's nothing to it. Like he doesn't do anything. He's so
no,
passive in it,
he's so
and
conflicted the
it's
entire movie that he's a non-character.
he is. I mean, and it's like almost like an apology for the first movie. Like remember there was all that buzz when the first one came out about how it was dangerous, right? And everybody
Yeah.
thought it was going to inspire violence, which was such a
You can at
stupid thing.
least see the Taxi Driver parallels. I mean,
You can, but I feel like in this movie, it was like, so yeah, okay, let's say the last one was Taxi Driver, okay? Let's say Scorsese made a sequel to Taxi Driver where Travis is like, well, I'm not such a bad guy. This is why I am the way I am. And God, I really am sorry for killing all those people in that house. That was bad. That was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I shouldn't have done that. It was terrible. It's not my fault. I'm a victim of society. Like that was kind of like that's what Joker 2 is though, and it's just like, and I'm not even gonna say that ludicrous title, and it's just there was nothing to it. Like I kept waiting for something really provocative to happen, and it never did.
I kept waiting for him to come alive. Like the whole point of this movie is that he's kind of, for people who haven't seen it yet, this isn't really a huge spoiler or anything, but he's kind of conflicted because his attorney wants him to do this insanity defense basically, but he wants to embrace his Joker aspect. But if to do that would probably get him guilty verdict and the death penalty. So he's kind of torn. But he's like this non-figure the entire movie. The scenes in Arkham are really just dry and kind of flat.
Oh, and cheesy too. I
Oh,
mean, like
God.
Brendan Gleeson in the movie, he acts, and I love Brendan Gleeson, but he acts like he's in, and I'm sure he was directed this way, like he's in a 1940s like gangster movie or something with like the hack guard who's like, "Hey, let's see, Mac, what are we gonna do?" Like it was that.
It's
Like,
almost like they told him to go back to Gangs of New York or something. And it's
yeah,
like, what
yeah,
are you
and it's
doing?
so weird, it's so off-putting, and like, I mean, people are gonna talk about the ending, which was stupid.
The ending is dumb, but to me the ending felt like Todd Phillips like finally putting his foot down, kind of.
Like I'm finished. Goodbye. I don't want any more of this. I don't want to do it. Goodbye. Done. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing. Yeah, we're for real.
No, but the Arkham scenes don't really work. They're kind of interspersed with musical elements. I think there's a tiny bit of spark when he first meets Harleen,
Yes.
and they're first encountering each other and learning about each other. That stuff kind of works. You see they're crazy, kind of figuring one another out. And that stuff works for me. But it's not much of that. And then we get to the really, really dull courtroom stuff. And I was just like, fuck me, man.
I know the courtroom stuff is really
best part of the
boring.
courtroom was Gary Puddles.
That was the one part I wrote in my review.
His character from the first movie.
Yeah.
And that scene was the only time I felt something like emotional for a character in the movie. And he's like a supporting character who's got one scene.
He did a great job though. He was great in that one scene.
Yeah.
Like that for me, that was probably the best scene in the movie. But the rest of it though, like you said, the courtroom stuff is so dry. Like I like a courtroom movie, but I like a compelling courtroom movie, and there was nothing to it, like
You're better off watching first episode of Matlock of the new
yeah, but at least that's there's something to that though. I mean, like in Joker though, because you already know all the crimes and you already know like what happened, and it was just like it's regurgitating information from the first movie, and it's also, and he's just passive. He's just sitting there for the most part,
Yeah.
That's
supposed to be the part where he comes alive as Joker. He's in his full makeup. He kind of goes most of the movie without it. And then it's like, but it doesn't happen. Like the switch never flips.
I hate to be that guy, but it needed more violence. because it's
Definitely did.
shockingly nonviolent. Like it's so tame that. So when I went to see it, the audience for this is the audience for it. So everybody in the theater, a lot of people were dressed up as Joker and Harley Quinn, and they were expecting like a
Oh man,
hardcore Joker
yeah.
Harley Quinn movie, and just watching them all dejected as they walked out, like they hadn't gotten
Those are the worst
these,
experiences when you have screenings like that where people like are really anticipating it and they're dressed up, or like, God, it was the worst experience I had when that happened.
So the worst experience I ever had with it was I remember when I went to see Spider-Man 3, there were all these people dressed up as Spider-Man, and there was this one guy, when the movie was over, literally took off his Spider-Man costume and threw it in the trash and walked out.
I went to this movie I don't know if you remember the Hawaiian movie. It's like Princess Kwanalahi or whatever her name was, whatever the queen was. But it was about this Hawaiian queen, a real life queen. Yeah. So they brought like a Hawaiian delegation to the movie. It was like a whole big government event, and then they showed the movie, and it's so goddamn boring. You hear people snoring in the theater, and it's like this has to be so embarrassing. Like, did anybody watch it before it came out, before they set this whole thing up? I don't think so.
Mortifying.
Yeah. Oh my God. I was like, I didn't know how I was going to feel about this movie anyway. Like, I never thought that it needed a sequel. It didn't seem like it did.
No, me neither.
A one-off. But
I like musicals, though. So the musical thing was actually, to me, was kind of compelling, and I was looking forward to that. What was a bummer was that the musical numbers didn't really do much.
In theory, it's compelling. But, but if you're going to do it, just do a full-blown musical. Just do that.
Like an opera, like a rock opera. It should have been like Phantom of Paradise or something like that. But he did New York or One from the Heart. And it's just like, those movies were disasters for their directors. And this is going to be, I think, a disaster for him, too.
I think so, too. And I didn't think it would be so blatant how little direction the movie was going to have. Like, I was just like, my girlfriend came with me, and I was just like, what is this movie trying to do? Like, I don't know what the point is. Like, when they got to the court, I was like, well, what are they trying to say about him? Like, I don't really even know it anymore. We're almost to the end of the movie. Like, I still don't know. I don't even know where it's like, what its trajectory is. Like, what is happening here?
Yeah. It feels like you said it. It feels like a movie that Phillips didn't want to make, and he made it, and resentfully, almost like under duress. And I feel like we've seen that from him before. Like both Hangover sequels were kind of like that. And it's just it's not his thing, sequels. Like, I think he makes great one-off movies. I even said in my review, though, I would imagine, and people shouldn't write him off, I would imagine his next movie, his next original film, probably be really good.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think he's a bad filmmaker. I just think that when he doesn't want to do something, he really needs to not do it.
Yeah,
he needs to just put his foot down and not do it. I think he feels obligation to do things.
Well, do another Joker movie without me. And it's like, let me tie this up so I don't have to do any more.
Let Warner Brothers go ahead and do that. But then again, I don't know. Joaquin Phoenix was at a really low register in this movie the entire time too. Like, I just didn't.
It felt like he didn't. He felt like he was phoning it in. And he won an Oscar for the last one. And it's. I mean, this isn't going to win any Oscars. It's not going to be in the conversation at all.
No, it's not, and it's amazing. I'll be very curious to see what it does at the box office. I said in my review, it'll make half or less than what.
I think fans are going to hate it. Like it's like it or not, the original did speak to a certain type of person, a certain type of fan, and that fan is not going to like this movie because they make.
I wonder what the hell happened. That kind of person already doesn't like it because of the title.
Yeah,
and they
make him so passive and like, I don't know. It's a weird worst sequel.
What's the last sequel this bad? Because
that was like this much of a drop off where it was like a 50%.
To me, this one's a disaster. Like I when I was writing it, I was getting like more angry.
Me too. When I walked out, I was like, it wasn't great. But then when I was writing, I was like, this is actually really bad.
Yeah. What's the last sequel that has this big of a drop?
What was a really disappointing sequel? I'm trying to think, like super disappointing. Disappointing.
It really, really atrocious sequel.
Well, I mean, there's a couple. I mean, there's Speed 2. That's pretty bad.
Well, I mean, okay, yeah, obviously, yeah, it's not
as bad as Speed 2 or Exorcist 2 or Basic Instinct or like Staying Alive. Like it's not that bad. Or The Sting 2. The Sting 2. Maybe like Zoolander 2, like kind of like that level.
Ooh. I actually forgot Zoolander 2 existed until you just reminded me of it. I totally forgot that movie happened.
Zoolander 2, man. Or
God
Caddyshack 2. Caddyshack.
Okay,
2.
now all right. Now Caddyshack 2 is one of the worst movies of all time.
Yeah.
I stand by
let's
that.
replace Rodney Dangerfield with Jackie Mason.
Jackie Mason. Oh God.
Bad idea.
Oh God.
When the best performance in the movie comes from Chevy Chase, you know you're in big trouble.
Yeah. Although I got kind of a
says, hey, how come there's not more Chevy Chase in it? You're like, oh, it's probably not very good. Did you see, speaking of Chevy Chase, did you see Saturday Night yet?
I saw it last night. Yesterday was a Joker Saturday Night doubleheader.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah. And I don't want to talk too much about Saturday Night because maybe you and I should get back together and talk about that.
Yeah.
But I really liked it a lot. So, I was surprised, and I don't want to get steer too far away from Joker, but I was really surprised at how much I like Dylan O'Brien as Dan Aykroyd and how much I like Corey Michael Smith as Chevy Chase. Those are the two roles I was like, for real? I don't know.
Dylan O'Brien, I couldn't believe how good he was as Dan Aykroyd. I was shocked because I thought he was stupid casting when they announced it originally, and I was shocked at how good he was. And J.K. Simmons as Milton Berle too is legit.
Well, he's legit because his performances, the things he says are insane. So
that's Milton Berle. That's how he was, though, dude. Like it's pretty. I think apparently pretty realistic as opposed to like that's the kind of guy he was.
Oh man. So, what do you think our prospects of Joker 3 are?
I mean, literally none. But I mean, it felt like it was, you know, it's like when you leave a job and you burn the place down behind you. Like I feel like that's kind of what Todd Phillips was doing with this. Like he does not want to do any more movies in this vein, in this universe. And it's a shame because he should have just left it as a one-off, leave people wanting more. I don't know why Hollywood can't do that. They always have to milk things to death. Like just do a single movie. Like it's the same thing that Gerwig and Roby are talking about with Barbie. You know, like they just leave it as one movie, but inevitably somebody's going to make a sequel to it, regardless, because it's such a big hit that it doesn't matter if they don't do it. Somebody's going to do it anyway.
I feel
like I have to do a sequel because I can't let the legacy of the movie be killed by this terrible film. But
the thing that they don't consider is that by making a bad sequel, you might kill whatever residuals, whatever long-term gain that the other movie might have had.
I think that's 100% what's going to happen with Joker, because this is the kind of sequel that you walk out of it and you're like, well, was the original even that good to begin with?
I've already heard people saying that.
Yeah, it's happening a lot.
Yeah, I'm already hearing people saying, well, the first one wasn't that good anyway, or at least, it doesn't really hold up anymore. And it's like, I said, okay, well,
it came out at exactly the right time. I think just before the pandemic hit. And then when the pandemic hit and people were feeling even more disenfranchised, it just exploded in popularity. Right. But I think now we live in a different world. It's maybe a little dated.
Yep. I agree. Until that type of movie will probably feel dated until Magazine Dreams comes out next year. So, then the conversation will start.
That made me think of you.
The conversation will start anew. With a racial component.
the best. It's a better Joker sequel than this one. Actually, it's more in the vein of Joker than this one is.
It really is. All right. Any last thoughts on Joker? Folie à deux. Any last thoughts?
It means like a shared delusion. That's what it means.
I remember when they first. Yeah. Any last thoughts?
Folie means crazy. Deux means two.
Yeah, I always thought it meant like crazy over crazy something like that.
Yeah. Shared delusion. A folie à deux.
Oh man, what a disappointment!
It's like when you and I went to see that movie Burden that never came out. It was like a shared delusion. I don't think the movie really existed. I think you and I were just hallucinating it.
It did come out.
Oh yeah, it did years later,
but barely. Like it barely came out, but it did. Speaking of Burden. Sundance, you're going.
Hope so. Talk to Cortland and get me a spot.
Lynn has a spot. We're sitting there talking about personal stuff. Your friend has a spot. Go hang with her. We'll talk later. I'll tell you
All
why.
right, man.
I haven't even filled in my application yet, so
Me neither.
I got Middleburg in like 2 weeks, so I got to worry about
Are
that.
they showing The Brutalist?
Yes,
Wow, I'm curious to hear
like
your thoughts
the
on
first
that.
full day, and it's like
We've got
if I want to see it, that's like my day.
Man, we can do like a 3-hour podcast about that when you get out of it. That's gonna be
I
we're gonna have a
don't
lot
know
to
if
talk.
I'm going to want to spend 3 hours on a 3 hour plus movie.
We're gonna have a lot to talk about with that movie.
Oh man, I wish you were going to be there. All right.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too.
All right, everybody. That is those are our thoughts on Joker Folie de. We did not like it, and we'll be interested in seeing what people think of it after
People
this.
so far, the comments on the reviews for people that went to that early fan screening are all saying that I'm right.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
right. So yeah, I totally agree.
Which is not what you usually get for these kinds of movies. And they're like, no, he's right. It sucks.
Totally agree. All right,
Yeah.
that is Chris Bumbray of JillBlow.com. Go follow him there. He does amazing stuff over there at Jill Blow, one of my favorite sites, of course. And, I'm there on occasion as well. And I'm Travis Hopson of PunchdrunkCritics.com. You can find me every day there. All right, thanks, everybody. We'll see you on the next episode of Cinema Royale. Goodbye. Thanks for checking out the show. If you like what we're laying down, please subscribe to our channel and click the bell to receive notifications for all of our latest stuff.